Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there and the mother figures. Let's not forget those. Today I just wanted to come talk to you guys about Mother's Day and how it makes me feel, since I posted something on Facebook and a lot of people reached out to me. For those of you who don't know me, I lost my mother almost 6 years ago and it still feels like yesterday. And for me, I feel like Mother's Day sucks. Like, I could celebrate my grandmother or my aunts or, you know, adopted aunts or mother figures, but to me it feels a little unfair because it's Mother's Day and I can't celebrate my mother. But then I can't take too much away from Mother's Day because I do have my own children who want to celebrate Mother's Day with me. So I had to be very transparent with my children and just let them know that I don't often give myself time to mourn or to grieve or to feel sadness or pain. And today was the day I chose. It's a Sunday. I didn't go to church, but I also didn't have to go to work. So I just felt like it was the perfect time for me to sit at home and to be in my feelings. I wrote on Facebook today that I didn't plan on getting out of bed. And I didn't. I didn't get out of bed until 6 o'clock this evening. And it was only because my pastor, shout out Pastor Corey, started texting me to make sure that I was in a good headspace. My kid's father, and a couple other people. And I feel like when I talk to my pastor, I'm not able to, I guess, sugarcoat it, because we've had enough conversations for him to know when I'm putting on and when I'm being authentic. So we were having a conversation and he was actually getting me more emotional than I was going to allow myself to be. So then I felt like, well, now I want to talk about it. But I don't want to talk about it with him because he has a family and a beautiful wife and a beautiful baby and baby on the way, and I just felt like I don't want to take that away. Like, what I'm going through is not as important as your family time, Mother's Day. So I didn't want to really get into depth. Matter of fact, I didn't want to get into depth with this conversation, period. I just wanted to have an internal conversation with myself, cry if I need to, scream if I need to, cuss if I need to, and then tomorrow be good as new. But the reality of it is, I feel like I was never given the proper way to grieve, nor did I allow myself the proper time. I remember the day my mom passed away, my phone rang at 4:44 in the morning. And I remember looking at my caller ID. Now, had it been my mom calling, I would have thought nothing of it, because at the time she was at my sister's house in Alabama. There's a 2-hour difference. My mom used to call me at random times all the time. So for me, it was like, if it was her, it would have been nothing. Like, what you want? What you want, girlfriend? But it was my sister, Syair. And Syair and I talked, but Syair would have never called me at 4 o'clock in the morning. Just because. Like, she's not that type of person. She wouldn't just call me just to be like, hey, girl. So I remember answering the phone, and it's a scream, not even a scream, but the sound of her voice is something that I will never ever forget. And the first thing she said was, boom, mama's not breathing and she's not moving. And for a split second, I lost it. But then I could hear my sister, she kept repeating it. And I'm thinking to myself, on one hand, I'm freaking out. But then I'm like, wait, obviously she's calling me to give something, you know, to give something on myself. So I quickly snapped back into my head and said, hang up with me right away and call 911. So she did. So I got up, turned all the lights on in my house, and I started pacing. And I gave her enough time for, you know, that I thought it would take her to call 911, and I called her back. So by the time I called her back, some of our cousins had made it to her house, and She was like, they won't let me go in there. They're in there working on her. And in my spirit, I just knew. There was nothing that anybody could say to me. There was nothing that I just knew. So instead of having that hope that she will be okay, I was in a place where, okay, Simone, this could get really, really bad if you let it. So I remember just being on the phone rocking and, you know, just tearing up. I wasn't really crying at the time, just tearing up. And I remember hearing her cousins and her friend Brown, shout out to Brown, just being there, talking to her, consoling her, and just trying to get my nephews out of the way so that they wouldn't have to see what was going on. And the phone hung up. So then I gave myself a minute to cry, because now I didn't feel like I had to put on and be strong for her because she wasn't on the phone anymore. So I cried, and maybe for about 30-45 minutes. Then I tried to call my mom's husband. He didn't answer. So then I got back on the phone and I called my sister back, and my cousin Clarice answered the phone. And the calmness in her tone said it all. She said, "Mom," and before she finished, I said, "She's gone, isn't she?" And she said, "Yes, baby, she's gone." And before she passed away, maybe for like the 3 years prior to her death, I had been really struggling with depression and anxiety. I mean, it was bad to where I remember one summer, June, July, and August, I did not come out of my house. Only for the necessities, and the necessities were groceries. That was it. I didn't have a job, so I had nowhere to go. I had strayed away from church because that's what I do when I'm depressed. So I had nowhere to go, and I remember laying in my house one day and somebody beating on my door like the police. So I answer the door, and it's my mom. And she walks in the door and she says, "Get my grandkids dressed. You're not about to keep them hostage up in here because you're going through what you're going through." And she kind of walked around my house for a little bit, and it was a mess. So before she took my kids to her house, she cleaned up my place. And then she took my kids. And just that act alone kind of brought me to a place where, okay, now I can work out and sort out my feelings and get back on track. So back to the day she died, I kept telling myself, like, you can't go there. You can't get depressed. You can't get sad. You can't go into hiding, because there's no one that could pull you out. Now, I have two best friends. One of them, I'm not as open with my depression and anxiety and panic attacks. I don't know why. I mean, I'm sure that she's aware, but I just never really sat down and had a conversation with her about it. But my best other friend, she has been with me since I was 13 or 14. So she's seen the changes in me. She's seen the heartbreak. She's seen the kids being born. She's seen everything. So there was no way that I could hide anything. But also, she lives a million miles away. So when I want to disappear, I can disappear easily from her, because she can't just come knocking on my door. So I kind of kept telling myself, like, if you allow your mother dying to take you to that place, there's no one that can pull you out. Unless my best friend got on a plane and showed up at my door. And there are times where I feel like she's on the verge, because I do disappear, change my phone number, fall off the face of the earth, like I do. But that wasn't even a thought in my head. I just said, I can't go there. There's nowhere. There's nothing for me to do but to get it together. So at 4:44, my sister called me. At 12:30, my aunt, my stepfather, and myself were sitting in the mortuary, making the beginning stages of the funeral arrangements. So so like I said, at 12:30 we were at the mortuary making funeral arrangements. And from that point until we actually had the funeral, I felt like it was a whirlwind and I had to be strong every step of the way. But between the time that she died and the time we had the funeral, I felt like I had something to look forward to. I don't know if I thought I would get closure or I would feel, I don't know what I thought, but I felt like I had something to look forward to. So she died October 25th and we buried her November 6th. And between that time, between October 25th and November 6th, I had a lot of opportunities to cry and let myself go, but I built myself up to where my reputation is Simone is strong and she got it going on, and I'm just playing, but Simone is strong and she has it all together all the time. So the times where I could have cried or I should have cried, I didn't. I was strong for everyone else. So the day of the funeral came, and well, fun fact, my mother died in Alabama and she was buried here in California. So my sister and I made sure that her body was flown over from Alabama in the cutest little gown, little robe, because we're extra like that. But you only die once, right, girl? So the day of the funeral, it was hard. It was hard for me because, again, as a woman of God, I just know that my mother had her demons, she had her struggles, and she overcame a lot of them. And she was in a better place. She was at peace. You know, she had a severe drug addiction for a while, but she managed to get clean and get her life on track. She had some lies she told, which she managed to, you know, let the truth out. She had some broken relationships that she was able to mend. She did a lot before she died. And the crazy part about it is I find comfort in the fact that she died in her sleep. Because like I said, she had a drug addiction. She could have died in the years of her drug addiction. I was present for most of them, and she was doing some random out there kind of stuff, but she didn't die in that. The Lord gave her the opportunity to get clean and to come back to him before he took her away. So I'm happy about that. But as a child, as a daughter, I'm like, Lord, I don't care if her life is complete. I wasn't done with her, you know. I had just literally celebrated my youngest son's first birthday. She was here. His birthday was in June, and my grandmother, I believe, had a party that August as well, if I'm not mistaken. And then October, she's gone. But I was angry because I'm not done. Like, my mom was my backbone, my everything. We fought like sisters, but she had my back like a real OG. It was horrible for me at that time. I didn't grieve, and I had just started working at my job. I'm not going to even give them credit where I work because that's another story for another day. But at the time, I had a really compassionate boss, and his daughter had cancer at the time. So he was very compassionate with my situation. I was still on my 90-day probation, and he never questioned me. He never doubted my performance. It was horrible. My attitude was not horrible, but at the time I was like, what is there even to go on for? Like, what is there to live for? But I had to live because I got 3 kids, and now I don't have my mom for those moments where I want to quit a job and she'll help me pay my bills. Like, I have to be an adult. You want to quit, baby? You're on your own. You're going to be starving. You're going to be hungry because there's nobody, you know? I have my dad in my life. I do, but my dad doesn't, he didn't coddle me the way my mom did. So at the funeral, I just felt like this was the end and there was nothing to look forward to after. all my family went back home. My mom's friends went back home, and it was just like the party was over, and I was in a room alone. And nobody can understand what it was like to lose Anita except her 5 children, in that sense, because she was our mom. So you may have lost your wife, you may have lost your sister, you may have lost your cousin, you may have lost whatever, but you did not lose your mother, Anita. So there was very few people that I could go to. My best friend, she lost her mother at the age of 7. So she was able to understand where I was coming from, but then again, as I lost my mother as an adult, so there was still a gap in understanding. My 3 older siblings, they're not as emotional. Matter of fact, none of my siblings are emotional. Like, I don't know. So it's not like I'm just gonna call them to cry or go sit at their house to cry. It's just we're not like that. So I had to learn slowly how to deal with my emotions, because again, I felt like there was nobody there to pull me out. I remember the first time it rained after she was buried. I was driving to work, and all of a sudden I just busted out crying for no reason. And all I could think about was, it's raining and it's cold and my mom is outside and there's nothing that I can do. So I cried all the way to work. But I kept telling myself, like, Simone, get a grip. Like, that's her body and not her spirit, and like, let it go. So from that point on, I did a lot of counteracting my thoughts, because I would think some crazy stuff. Before my mom died, my anxieties were my kids would fall and die, drown and die, and choke and die. Okay? And after my mom died, literally that day, like, a weight was lifted off my shoulders, because I'm like, look, if any of my kids die, it's gonna hurt. But if death is good enough for my mother, then hey, it's good enough for my kids, right? But here we are 6 years later, and I have a new set of anxieties. I don't let anyone close to me, because I feel like I don't want to choose to allow more people to come into my life, to open myself up, to be vulnerable, to feel the pain of losing them. So I have not had a healthy relationship since. I feel like I keep people at an arm's length. Now, mind you, I'm very open and loving, genuinely, to people. But when it comes to expecting that or demanding that in return, I don't do it, because I feel like it's cool for me to love you, but once you start loving me and I start believing it, then that's where the possibility of heartbreak and disappointment comes in. So I just choose not to do it. Also, I have picked up some new bad habits on how I deal with my anxiety and depression. I will share some of those other things in another video, but one thing I will say is, it got so bad to the point where I went to my doctor and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm struggling so bad with my thoughts, with anxiety attacks where I feel like I'm having a heart attack at least once a week. I just can't do it anymore. I'm struggling. I need help. Like, I broke down in my doctor's office. Now, I'm the kind of person that doesn't trust easy, so I've had the same doctor for about 13 years now. Same OBGYN, same pediatrician, same everything. 13 years. Listen, I'm not, you know. So when I broke down and cried, he said, I've been waiting for you to ask me for help. But I knew that if I pushed off medication or therapy or whatever on you, you were going to resist it. I needed to wait until you were ready. And the first thing was, would you like to try some medication? Me being me, oh hell no. I'm not. No. Because I was afraid of what the medication would do. Now I'm taking a foreign body into my body, and oh no, I'm not going to do it. So he said, pray about it and think about it and come back in a couple of weeks and we'll talk about it. And in that couple of weeks, I found a sermon. I can't remember where it was, on YouTube, but I can't remember who it was. But it was a lady, and she was talking about how people with anxiety, we need to realize that taking medication and seeking therapy is not us saying that we don't believe in God's strength and his power, but it just shows that we are grateful for God blessing the doctors, the chemists, the scientists, whoever, those abilities to create these things to help us. So after I saw that sermon, I was kind of like, okay, I'm willing to give it a shot. I started taking some anti-anxiety medication and some antidepressants. And I'm like, wow, is this what life is like? Like, I mean, I used to have anxiety about meeting new people, talking in front of large groups, all that kind of stuff. And now I'm the life of the party all the time. But to a certain extent, I realized that I no longer have that fear of being the center of attention or being out there, but I still have a great fear of being 100% vulnerable to someone loving me and giving them the opportunity to hurt me and trusting that they won't. So I'm still struggling. I'm still a work in progress. But again, like I said, I've picked up a lot of different ways on how to deal with my anxiety and depression. But I just wanted to come over here and talk to you guys a little bit about that today, because Mother's Day to me, it sucks. Like, my mom was my best friend. Like, my best friend. We fought like sisters. But it wasn't until I think I was like 23, 24, no, maybe 20, when I decided that I didn't want to fight like sisters anymore. Like, I wanted to be mother and daughter. I wanted to shop. Like, we would shop so much and we would do so much, and you know, without her around on a daily basis, my world feels empty. I have my kids, I have my dad, I have my siblings, I have my best friends, but I just don't have my mom. Crazy part about it is, like, the day of her funeral, after it was over, the first person I wanted to call was her and be like, girl, let me tell you about your funeral, who turned up and who acted out. Couldn't do that. I wanted to call her and tell her how I passed probation at work and how I'm still here 6 years later. I wanted to tell her so many things, and she's not here. So this video is dedicated to the memory of my mother, but not just my mother, because along the years I have lost a lot of people who meant a lot to me. My Aunt Cookie, rest her soul. My Aunt Nina, Aunt Rose, Aunt Remy, Aunt Jetta, my grandmother Ophelia, and if I'm forgetting anybody, I do apologize. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. Hopefully this video will make you want to talk about what it is that you're going through, or it just gives you a better insight on who I am and why I function the way that I do a little bit. I don't know. But thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.